This is a center line that I'm putting down, but since it goes right down into the middle of the page where it's tacked into, it makes it a little bit easier. And just kind of starting off elliptical at the top, you can kind of see how it's tapered. It's symmetrical all the way down. That's an elliptical shape. Kind of has a cylindrical piece all the way down to it, to a little bit larger ellipse. And since it is symmetrical, it's just kind of even on either side of it. This has a cutoff piece right there that kind of arches it. So when you take a look at the overall structure of this, it's not too difficult to draw. Again, the center line coming all the way down right into where the point of this piece is. Now, depending on how you're putting together any kind of graphic, and if you want to use a straight edge too at the same time, just kind of placing it in there if this is going to have any other segment to it. So when I take a look at the other tacks, I'm going to put this one kind of behind this dispenser here. That also has a center to it. Kind of jump this over here. And if I were to cross the diagonals, if this was a rectangular piece, I could cross the diagonals to find the center, and that comes to the piece, just putting a little symmetrical thickness on either side. And it does have a lip, and this is offset just slightly. Okay, so it's kind of placed itself in there. And then this T-pin, it's got its name just because it's symbolizing or representing the letter T. I'll put this one in the back. Just a straight line with the letter T in it. A couple lines here that have a curve on either side because the way this is wrapped across is just making that section there. So real quickly, I have all three of these drawn, and depending on which direction I want to try some of them, could put another one back in there just showing the elliptical shape behind it if I want to incorporate some of those ideas. Again, when you do this, there's different colors, so the value is going to change. Red, yellow, blue, white. There's some green ones. I'm just going to simply put in, I'm just using the side of this pencil. This is an HB lead. Okay, and this part I'm just arching it with the surface of that tack right there and putting it down below. This one that's down below here, I'm just kind of giving it a surface as well. And same with this one on the other side, just kind of cranking it around there. Starting the ellipse, then just dropping it down. So for the most part, it's kind of drawn. Now if I want to simplify this, since it's a geometric shape, symmetrical, I could just kind of heavy up the lines real quickly just to show it to you again. Arching that piece. Finding that edge. So when you think of it, all the different planes in here is what you're trying to draw. I don't know what you're doing over there. So there's the center piece of it, same with this. Now if I have a straight edge, as I've been demonstrating, I'll kind of put this up here. Once I draw that line, that's a straight line, and I can push this edge right across the top there, lightly going with the pencil, or heavy coming back. Now this is kind of giving you that, you know, a solid piece to go through that, depending on if I use a transparent triangle, which I have right here. Now, you can use the ruler, but if I have a triangle, I can see through it. So that's allowing me, so I can go with the base tone right up against that edge and sketch that right across pretty quickly. Coming across this way. Now this one's arching with this piece. Get off that, whatever you're at. You guys should be drawing as this part comes through. Don't sit there on the computer. So that's giving me that part. As I go down to this point, there's going to be a line straight down, coming straight across like that. And coming across here. So this is giving me that edge. Since it is a photograph and it's white against black on the background or the dark against light, it's kind of an outline edge, so I can bring that across. And all this stuff. So anything that I go back in with a straight edge is going to help me bring that across there. Now same thing, I'll come back to that one, but the same thing with this part that they call a T-pin is right the edge there. And since that's a straight line, I made it kind of large. Just kind of going straight line like that, kind of varying it, shading it over a little bit, finding the opposite edge, and that pretty well builds that up. Anything now that's a curve lets me find that outside edge, shade a little bit, find the inside piece. It's separated on that part, so it gives me that section. So then I have to do is round this part off of it and round the inside off, because it wraps around itself in order to make that metal piece. So it's very quickly drawn in there. Okay. Anything as far as this, this thumbtack piece right here, going right here, same idea. I do have a straight line, which is the pin. So I find that one edge of it, let the shading come across, pick up the other side, find the point. And then this just has a thickness to it on the bottom. So it's kind of crimped metal, and it's offsetting itself like so. And just a little bit of tone. So as you look at these photos that come across your way, you can kind of get an idea. And then it's trying to exaggerate this. So I have a heavier lead. For this, I can get a darker value. Okay. And put a cast shadow under all this. Keep in mind, as I said before, this is all in a sketchbook type idea. I can flip the entire piece over, so now it's just right on the surface. So it gives me a little more of a rigid countertop, so to speak, to help me with that leading right on the edge there. So depending on which style, this particular mechanical pencil, a little harder lead. And again, I can line this up. And even though you find the edge, kind of blend the surface. Don't let the lines take over in this part. We're trying to do some of the shading. And if it is creased into the surface, I can have it punched into the page. Now you can see where you can put a cast shadow. In this case, just kind of putting the shadow on the edge there. And letting it get softer, and it gets a little blurry as it goes in the distance. This part here is just a tack I have behind it. So I'm just going to lightly sketch it in, because not only is it in the distance it's going to be blurry, but I also want it to be in the far side of this. Jasmine, pay attention on the screen, please. I'm drawing for my health, but also to try to show you guys this. So I can even put the straight edge right against that line of the T-pin there, so I can butt right up against it, look for some edges there, and do the same on the opposite side. And if you need these, they're over by the window, so you can grab a couple. And this shadow is going to be a little bit bigger, but softer as it goes in that distance. Okay. The only thing I would probably do extra, now I kind of combined it with this tape, just making it off scale a little bit, not going to hurt it. But this thumbtack just kind of giving an elliptical shape for the shadow. And if you remember, you have the highlights, quarter tone, base tone, and the reflected light that goes in there. Okay. So see how you do. When it gets into this part, again, you don't have to smear it, but when you do, if it's a couple pieces, just kind of showing that section, and then using some of the eraser to kind of bring that out, bring that edge out with. Oh, you got them. So same idea, if I'm trying to take a little bit of a highlight, just let it rub right against that edge there, right against that piece. Builds that piece up perfectly. Okay? So see how you do on that.